live from GB Music Group Studios in Dorado, Puerto Rico. And basically, this video, I think it's very important and it talks about the truth of solar, of living off grid. I've been living off grid for quite a while now, and I've had, a lot of mental awakening in regards to solar. You know, um, I remember when I was on the grid, our monthly bill would be like, I don't know, $200, 180 every month. And a lot of people, at least in Puerto Rico, 'cause I live in Puerto Rico, so I'm not speaking on other states, but I'm assuming that it might be similar. Um, Basically, I consider that 180, $200 a month for electric is extremely high, especially here in Puerto Rico. And and I know of many people, and I know the rates in Puerto Rico are high as well in terms of grid power. But I know a lot of people, especially elderly couples, they live in their houses. They really don't have anything, that draws a lot of power, and yet their bills would come very high, which is sad. So once I went off grid, I realized something. I realized that my energetic needs are actually very small. Mind you, buying solar is, like the upfront cost is a little bit expensive. Even if you do it, do it yourself like I did. It's a little bit expensive up front because you have to buy the equipment and whatnot. But I realized by living on solar how little power I used. And then I started questioning myself, why is it that then if I use so little power, why were my bills so high? You know what I'm saying? So right now I have a solar system, 1 kilowatt. It's a little over a kilowatt, but I'm just rounding it off. A 1 kilowatt system supplying my entire home needs, all of it. And it's amazing how the electric company charged me so much for something that fits in a little battery, for the amount of usage that I use, that fits in a little battery. Now I'm going to show you my system just to give you an idea. This is my battery setup, okay? And right here I have six, and that one in the rear, that's seven. All of those batteries are in parallel. This is a separate system. So we're talking seven deep cycle batteries in parallel, okay? And that's what I'm working with, okay? Now I use I run my entire house. I run my entire recording studio on this system. I run fans, I run TV, I charge my phones, I charge everything. I have exterior lights, every single thing that I have. I run the entire house. The only thing that I don't run off of solar is air conditioning, because air conditioning it's another creature in itself. But other than that, out of those seven batteries, which equals, I would say, about 600 amp hours roughly, I only use less than 25% of their capacity. And let me tell you, I don't, I'm not skimping out on power. I have my modem on 24/7. I have my refrigerator on 24/7. Mind you, it is a smaller fridge. It isn't the full, full size fridge. But then again, I don't need it. You know, but the whole point is all of the needs are met, and I'm only using a 25% capacity on my batteries. To give you just a perspective, by noon, everything that I used plus anything additional is put back by the solar panels. So, in the morning, I still have everything running. I still have the refrigerator running, and yet a small 1,000 watt system, or 1 kilowatt system, as we call it, supplies all of these needs. Now, I mean, it's just, to me, it's amazing how um, my energetic needs are met just with a couple of batteries. I mean, what I was paying for before being on the grid, $200 a month, is gone. And I don't have to ever pay it again. Excuse me. And it's just amazing. It's amazing when you go off grid and you start seeing these things and you say, hold up, everything I use in my house is supplied by two, three batteries. Because really, I mean, if I'm even though my system is my battery bank is a little heftier, but I'm telling you, I'm only using about what 80 to 100 amp hours a day, and my 1,000 kilowatt system every hour puts out 1,000 watts. Maybe a little less depending on the sun conditions, but in the course of a day, I've generated about 5,000 watts. Um, I don't see it. I don't see, the need, right, for the grid. I really don't. I mean, yeah, I see the need in terms of like, factories and other things that, probably require a bigger load. And I'm kind of speaking from an idealistic situation since I'm in the tropics, and I don't have to run, like a furnace or anything like that. So I mean, like I'm saying, it all depends where you're from. We get really good sun every day. We live in the tropics. It's not the same thing for maybe somebody who might live up north in the mainland who probably doesn't get a lot of sun. So things may vary, but in general terms, the power, um, that I personally use, used to use and still do, is minimal. I mean, I look at it. I'm like everything I do fits in like two batteries. You know, when you start looking at it that way, you say, then what the heck am I doing, paying an electric company every month, 180, $200? Now, when you go off on solar, you do have to keep in mind certain things. You have to be more careful. You shouldn't leave the lights on. Well, even if you're on the grid, you shouldn't just leave the lights on if you're not in a room, or leave the TV running if nobody's watching. I mean, it's just common sense. Um, but like a small solar system. Mine is totally DIY. Wasn't a company that came in. Is I did it myself, and I live totally off grid. Totally off grid. I'm not doing without anything. I'm not doing without. And a little system like the one I have, you can build it in the long run. I mean, with everything included, like my system with all my panels, with all my batteries, even including two small generators. I don't. I'm about at a $4,000 investment. But this is an investment for the rest of my life. Solar panels have, usually come with a warranty of 25 years, and after 25 years, it's not like they go bad. After 25 years, simply their production might reduce a little bit. Doesn't matter, because all you gotta do is you buy another panel and you offset whatever, you know what I mean, whatever loss you had in the 25 years. The battery bank is actually like the Achilles heel. Like at some point in time, you might have to change your battery bank once in the lifespan of the system, once or twice. Let me exaggerate. Let's say twice. Unless you really go expensive and go with lithium, but regular lead acid, will last you a good 5 to 8 years if you really take care of it, especially in a situation like me that I'm only using 25% of it. You know, Batteries are rated in cycle life, and when you're using lead acid batteries, they recommend you not spend more than 50%. So the bigger your battery bank, the lighter, your load on the battery bank itself. You know, so like I said, I think that everybody should build a solar system. I think that if everybody in the U.S. built their own little DIY solar system, it would help a lot in terms, even on the grid. It would help the grid because it would relieve the pressure on the grid. It would um, take people away from the reliance on the grid, but at the same time, your electric prices are going to go down because the demand will be lower. So, on a monetary level, the electric company won't have any choice but to lower rates because everybody's getting off of it. You see what I'm saying? So, the prices will go down on the grid. So I mean that's just my assessment on this whole situation. But it is kind of amazing the fact that, at least in my personal experience, my energetic needs will suffice, will be filled with like two batteries, three batteries at most. Three batteries. And when you look, these are deep cycle marine batteries, but it's the same size as a car battery. Now, I'm not recommending car batteries for solar, guys. If you're gonna do it, at least at a minimum, get a marine deep cycle battery. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you look, I look over there and I'm like, geez, everything I use is basically, met by these little batteries, and yet the grid, wants to charge you so much, and you spend so much. Now, in defense of the grid, I have to say some people, um, they waste a lot. The grid is, have being on the grid, you waste a lot. You leave the TV on, you leave this on, you leave that on, and a lot of that high bill comes from, users who are very quick to just turn everything on. But if you stay away from certain things like electric stoves, um, I don't like electric stoves. Those are they're electric hogs. You know what I'm saying? You really can't tell. Like when you're cooking. I don't know. I can't. I'm so used to gas. Here in Puerto Rico, me personally, we're on propane, and the majority of people in Puerto Rico use propane gas, because of the prices of electrics too high. But propane, it's really easy because you see the flame. You know when it's running out. Propane is relatively cheap. You could buy I get a 17-pound tank for what, like $15, and it lasts me 3-4 months. Sometimes even more. Um, so I think that if people really really want to take control of their, like, electric bill and their energetic needs, they should start thinking about building solar, even if it's a small system. There are some systems that you could just purchase. You know what I mean? Like the Energy Kodiak, Bluetti. These systems might cost you $1,500 to $2,000, but it's well worth it. Because I mean, imagine this. You have this. Let's say, you buy one of those prefabricated systems, and let's say during the day you go to your breaker box and you turn your grid off, and you're working off of your Bluetti or your Jackery or your Energy Kodiak. You're just living off of that. Believe me, you're gonna see a substantial difference in your bill. At the end of the day, you're gonna turn that off, and at the end of the month, you're gonna be like, damn, you know and you could try it out that way. You could try, like, a little experiment of trying to live off grid, having the grid, just turn it off. And when you do that, you're gonna notice that your bills are a lot lower. So I mean, that's just an idea for people. Me, I went I went off, completely. So I'm totally off grid, and with a small DIY system. And let me tell you, I do not ever want to go back on the grid, ever. I mean, I really don't want to. I think that being on the grid is totally throwing money away. It really is. Literally, I mean, I see it that way, as if it's taking $200+ and just putting it in the garbage can every day. When I with $200, I could buy a 100 amp hour battery and a 100 watt panel, and do so much with that. But like I said, in a way, I'm kind of like a minimalist in many ways. So, I am doing without, like, a washer and dryer the way people have it. You know what I mean? And we're not doing air conditioning. We're doing all fans and stuff. And I'm planning on building a separate little system just to run air conditioning, because here in Puerto Rico it does get really hot. But that being said, There are other options for cooling. We got swamp coolers, what they call evaporative coolers, fans, misting fans. You might want to check out too, um, which are really good. There are other ways of cooling down, the atmosphere within your home, to live comfortably. Like right now, my entire house, I put fans everywhere. There's fans everywhere. I have enough power to run them. So when the heat gets cranking, I turn a couple of fans on, and I'm talking heavy duty fans, not no little cheapo, you know, heavy duty fans. Now, when days are nice and cool, and if I just want a little bit of air, then I have one of these right here next to me. These little 12-volt fans. You see? So I have those, but when it's necessary, you see that big one there? That pulls 165 watts, on high. So that moves a lot of air, open up the doors. But like I said, your climate has a lot to do with it too, and I don't, I wouldn't be speaking the same way. Let's say if I was living, I don't know, somewhere in the north where there's a lot of cold weather and whatnot. That being said, a lot of people think that solar panels need to be like in hot places, and that is not true. Solar panels do not work off of heat. Solar panels actually don't like the heat. They actually produce more energy when it is cold out. Now, what they run off is, light from the sun. The protons. That's what they run off of. So, even if you live in a cold climate, if excuse me, if it's sunny, your solar panels will work very, very well. On the contrary, here in Puerto Rico, since it gets so hot, the solar panels get hot and their production goes down because of the heat. So many times when it's really hot, I'll purposely pour some water on them and cool them off a bit. You know, so that's pretty much it. But I wanted to say this to people and explain this to people because unless you try to live off grid, you're really not gonna understand. Um, you're really not gonna understand it, and it is kind of it's kind of hard unless you jump into the off grid living. But what I can tell you is that your energetic needs are a lot lower than what you think, and you could be saving a lot of money a month. So just think about it, guys. If you have any questions, Ruben Obed here, and I'll answer them for you. So take care, guys, and God bless. And please, consider going on, building your own solar system, or at least purchasing some kind of a backup solar system for your home, because look at what happened in Texas. I mean, nobody expected that. So that could a solar system like that could have helped out a lot of people. So take care, guys. Peace.